Hello everyone, my name is Yogesh and in today's lecture we will understand concept of WPF. As for the example, we will be covering one example. We will be doing insert, delete, update, selection and searching on a table which I created. Basically I created a database WCF contact DB. It has table, contact table, and these are the 6 fields. So we will be doing insert, delete, update and like all basic CRUD operation over this table using store procedure and WCF web services. Now, most of what I have seen, people do hesitate in making web service using WCF because they think it is a little bit out of the way compared to the old web services. But in reality, it is actually similar. The thing is, web methods are being called as operation contract. So we will be covering when we will be doing practical part. One more thing about today's lecture is today it will be totally about practical. There will be no theoretical implementation of anything. So I will be showing you practical only. So for theory, I will be recording few more lectures so that from this lecture you can quickly start making any web services if you require. So let us start with Wcf template. Now in new project, first we have to go into WCF. Taking time. Okay. Now we have to select this WCF service application and then we will name it sample app. Now by default, like Visual Studio do have some default files which it add as a template, like it is kind of template of having few files in the WC web services. So let us see what are those files. Now by default, Visual Studio add these 3 files. One is iservice1.cs, second is service.svc, and third is web.config. Now web.config, you are already familiar with it because it is a web service, so the configuration should reside in web.config. Now the second is service.svc file. Now this is the web service which will be exposed to the client. Now most of the people don't know when they are starting working on the web services. First thing which they have to look is iservice1.cs file instead of going this svc file, because this is dependent upon this iservice1.cs file. Now how it is dependent? Now you remember, like in old web service we do have web methods. Okay, so web methods are been declared and defined within the web service. Now in this there is little bit one step ahead, one step added. Now whatever web methods you want to expose to the client, you will create their interface and you will define those methods, you will declare those methods within the interface, and definition of those methods we have to define in the web service. Getting my point? Now if you are familiar with the concept of interface, then it will be very easy for you. Otherwise I will give a little bit introduction to you so that should be easy for you to understand. So just understand for now is interface just contain declaration of any method. It don't have definition. So you see, we have defined a method named getData which will return some string type data and which accept a parameter that is of integer type, and here you can see there is no body of this method. Now this interface is implemented by the web service. Now once it is implemented, now in this service class we will be providing definition to these methods. So now why we use interface? Because first of all, interface act as a digital signal. This is the only thing which is provided to the client, so that client must be aware of what are the methods he has to call. Kind of as you can say, he gets a list of the those methods. So why interface is required? One more thing, it imposes standardization. So in WCF standardization has also been given a very key role. So now see, we have declared 2 methods, one is getData and second is getData using data contract. Now coming to the data contract, it is the type of data format which client and you can say service will be exchanging. Now this will the user defined classes which you will be passing, so we will cover it later. So here let me show you one more thing. Now in interface, if I want one more method, to get added to the web service, first I need to declare that method with attribute operation contract, and I have to give the name. So I will say string hello world. Okay, now if I try to debug my program now, it will give me an exception, because the reason is, as I had declared this method in an interface, but I haven't defined this method, I haven't provided the definition, you can say body, to this method in the implemented class, like where the I have implemented the interface. So in service class I will go for implementing this method. So now I have this hello world. Let me return a value name hello world. So now we can delete these methods because we don't require this method generally. Okay, now first step is you have to go into this iService1.cs file. Then you have to define your methods which you want to expose to the client. Now what is data contract? Now data contract is kind of uh, in what format you will send information and in what format you accept information from the client. So if you are accepting information or you are sending information is user defined type, like which are the classes, then you have to name that class as a, like provide an attribute on that class as a data contract. So from data contract the client must be aware of, like the data type he will be he will be getting is of this class type. So and all the properties are known as data members. So let us remove this property which we don't require. Let us make one more one property, like okay, we can take this string value. Let we type it string s paste, and now what we did is we made a class named composite type. We can name it as like sample type, also sample type or whatever you like, and this is having one property which is like given attribute as data member, which is string value. Okay, now what we will do is we will make one more method which we want operation contract, and we will say string, and I will say hello world with data contract, and I will say like I want a parameter which is of sample type. I will say obj par name given to, or you can say parameter, I will give name. Now as I have declared the method in the interface, now for the definition I will go again to the service class. I will right click on this and I will click on implement. Now this method is here. So what I will do is I will return par dot string value to the client, like same. Okay, what we can do is we can just remove this parameter. We don't require the parameter. Let me return this just the object of this type, and instead of going this, let me, like the method is without argument, but the thing is the data it will return will be of this new type which we created, like the sample type. We will say we want to return new sample type, and the value of that sample value is string value is hello world. So now these two are the methods which will get exposed to the client. Now let us rebuild. If there is any exception it will tell us. Now there is one exception. Let us see what that exception is. It didn't define, it shows us the exception. Okay, now it is showing. It is showing. Okay, sorry. Here we change the data type, like return type of the function, but here the method is not having the same return type. So by default it took string when we at that time we haven't changed it. So now our web service is ready with two methods, hello world and hello world with data contract. So let us create one application to consume our service. Let us make a Windows, console application. That will be the best. So we can say Wcf console. So now first thing you have to do is you have to rebuild your web service, because sometimes what happens is you want to search the reference, you will not be able to add that reference to your project because you haven't rebuilt it. Okay, one more thing, like before adding reference, let me show you how it looks in web browser. Now in web browser it looks pretty much same as like a old web service. Okay, so there is nothing new. Just the thing is, here for consuming the service you have to create a service client. Okay, so we cannot directly call the web service from the web browser like in the old web service we were able to call the methods. Now here all the methods can only be called by making client of the service. Now let us see what that means and how we will work on it. Now first thing, we have to go into on this like console application. We will go add service reference. We will discover our service. We will name it as service ref, and we will add. It will take few seconds. Okay, now once our service is added, first thing which we have to do is we have to make the client. Taking a little bit more time. Pardon for your for the delay. Okay, now as we can see here, in the old web service used to create disco file and all. Now it is just a reference. So what we have to do is, first thing, to call the methods, we have to get service dot service1 dot client, service1 client. So we will say obj client and new client. So first thing which I told you is we have to create one service client. Second, we can directly use our methods. So we will say console.write and we will say obj client dot hello world. Now for the second method, as we will be getting an object of type, so let me make var data return equal to obj client dot hello world with data contract. Now I will say console dot write line data return dot string value. So with this I will be able to call my web service. Now let me add one breakpoint here on the both side, and let me run my project, debug, start new instance. I don't know why my laptop got a little bit slow, so excuse me for this delay. Now first thing, it hit my console application. Now first thing, I created object of client. Now I am calling the hello world method. Now it will hit my web service in the project. Now my web service will return hello world text string, and this will write into the console application. So we do have this method now, message now, hello world. Now when I'm calling the hello world with data contract, it will be returning me object of type sample type, which is our data contract. Now if we see, we got the object which is passed, which is having these two properties. One property, string return, string value. Now if I just write it again into the console, so I got my output. Now one more thing, why these attributes are important. Now suppose I want to make one more property in here, string str. Let us give string dot empty by default, and let me create one more public property. I will say str. I will say get return str and set str equal to value. What happened with this str? It is saying MB. Oh, sorry, I have to just give it one uppercase to make it work. Okay, now what I did is one more property which I have added to my object. So what I will do is I will try to rebuild first my service, and most expected output is this property will be available on the client side also. Okay, now I will go here and I will say like update service reference. Now as we know, like this is a public property, so this must be available on the client side. But if we will go again here, and if I try to access data return dot, now you see there is no property name str. Now the reason is we haven't provided attribute on it, that is data member. So once we provide this attribute data member, then only this web service, like this property, will be accessible to the client. Once I rebuild it, now I will update my reference again. Update service reference. So my reference are updated. Now if I try to use the value, now you see str is there. So that's why these attributes are important. So let me get you again, give you again walkthrough so that we can start with our CRUD operation directly after this. So what we made is, first thing which you have to edit in your project is you have to go into iService.cs file and you have to declare those methods which you want to expose to the client. First thing. Now the second thing, once you are declaring those methods, if they are returning some complex or user defined type, then you have to first define those like classes under attribute name data contract, and all the members which you want to make public to the client, you have to provide them attribute data member. Now this is very simple. The methods, the web methods, in old web service we do have web methods. So web methods you want to expose to the client, you have to declare here. Now when it comes to the service, you have to implement those methods and you have to provide definition, or you can say body, to those methods. So whatever they will do, so these are the just definition of web methods, so whatever they are doing. So this is how much simple it is. Now there is one more problem with this. Now if we try to rename our service, let me rename it like service sample, and let me copy it, and I will rename this service also. Yes, I want to rename, and I will rename the service also. Now if I rename my class also, and if I try to run now service, it will give me an exception. Let us see. Today my laptop is literally screwing up, sorry. Okay, now it gives an exception. The reason is, in the service we are able to change the this class, but somewhere the old class name is there, that is service1. So what we have to do is we have to go right click on this web service, like then we have to go with open with any text editor you can select. Okay, now you have to change this service1 with your recent class name whichever you have given to your project. So this is how much similar, like this is very simple. So first you have to do is you have to rename the files, rename the class, and then you have to open this web service and a text editor, and you have to give the latest you can say a service class name. Okay, so this is how easy web services in WPF. First, declaring the web methods as an operation contract within service contract, declaring the data contract like the classes which you want to share with the client, and declaring the public property with the name, the attribute data member. Then you have to define your method. So let us start with our CRUD operation, which is the main for our project, and it will be very quick because I have made my code already, so it will kind of copy and paste all the time. So just pardon me for a minute, so it will be very easy, don't worry. Okay, now what we have to do is, first we will go again with our contract, template type Wcf, and we will say it as Wcf CRUD. One more thing, let me use this name, Wcf contact. First what we will do is we will rename our first interface file with Wcf contact, because this is a contact type, contact table we will be working on. And I will rename my web service as well. In web service I will rename my class, and also in web service I will open it in the text editor and will rename my service1 with the latest name which I have given to my class. Okay, now once it is done, let me just run my service and see whether it is working or not, whether something went bad or not. Okay, yes, I want to preview what are the exception. Contact already. Oh, in the interface I have to give a name I. So here I will rename it, and let me add I here, and I will add I here too. So okay, let me rebuild now. Everything is fine, I think. Yep, now we can see whether there is any exception in our service or not. Okay, now our web service is working fine. Now first thing which we have to do is, for making a CRUD operation, we have to make a class which is parallel to this table class, which is having all this column as their properties according to their data types. So first thing is we need to define the data contract. So my data contract type will be WCF contract. Okay, I think I need to rename this service with something else. Contract service. Let me add service, because I have because in the code which I have already renamed, it is having different, you can say, service, different type. So I have already used this WCF contact there. So let me just rename it so that code can be reused very easily. Okay, now pardon for the mistake and the time which I consume. Now first thing I have to do is I have to create the class which is parallel to this table, like you can say database table class. So I have created one class, so I will be using this one directly. So let me copy it. Okay, now instead of these properties, my properties will be these. So each one of these property do represent property within the table. So if you see that this contact name is represented by this contact name prop. So let me change one more thing. Let me give them same name instead of giving them complicated name. Okay, now I will be just removing this. Okay, just pardon me for a second. Let me just make it quick for you. I just messed up with the code little bit. I'm just saving my few strokes by just copying and pasting everything. Sorry. Okay, now this is my you can say data contract, because this is the class representing the table. Now all the columns are been given name, like we have a parallel properties like contact ID is of integer type, we have contact DB of date type, contact name as a string, which are the values represented as a data type within the data table. Now once my contract is declared, now first thing which I need to do is I need to declare the methods which I want to use. So I will be returning kind of integer value, or you can say int, and I will be creating insert method. Okay, even I have already made some methods. Let me tell you, that is insert. Okay, and the type of parameter which we will be passing in insert is WCF contact. So the client will be sending an object of this class and we will be doing our insert operation. So once I declare the method, first thing which I need to do is I have to implement that method within the service. First thing, we declare the data contract. Second thing, I declare the you can say my web methods which I want to expose to the client, and second is why I have to implement its body. So I will go here, implement my web method. Now I have this predefined body. It is doing nothing, just doing the insert operation. So the code is totally, you can say, you must be aware of this code, so there is nothing different about the code. I have this connection string. Let me resolve some few dependencies. Resolve. Okay, now done. Okay, and we will get our value. And okay, one more thing, I will rename my parameter name with this one, contact pair. Okay, now what I'm doing is I have created one SP, that is insert contact type, like SP name insert contact. I will be calling this store procedure and I'm passing the values as the argument which I have declared in the store procedures. which will be inserting the value and will be returning me the identity, means new ID inserted for that type. Now once it is done, I will be returning the ID. Okay, now let us consume this web method which we just created. We'll right click, add new solution, new project. Let me add one more console application, Wcf console. I think Wcf console. Now I will be adding the reference of my web service. Ref. Okay, if now, as I told you, like I haven't rebuilt my web service, I declared, changed everything, so this will be the exception. So once you are done with the changes, you have to rebuild your web service first before consuming. By mistake I showed you this exception. Now once it is rebuilt, now I can add my reference, discover service ref. It will take few more seconds. Now once my reference is added, I'm ready to consume my web service. And let me do one more thing. Let me add breakpoint in the web service so that we can see how our method is hit. So first thing is we have to create client, obj client new. Now second thing is we need to call this insert method. Now before calling this insert method, we need to pass data, like when we will be calling this method, we need to pass a, you can say, object of Wcf contact type. So now this data context, you can say Wcf service ref dot Wcf contact is there. So I will be creating object of my data contract, and I will be defining values to the property. So my name is Yogesh, obj contact dot number is 90326250, and obj contact obj contact dot income equal to 50,000, obj contact dot DOB equal to let me pass any date time dot now, nothing to worry about. Okay, is there anything which is left? No, there's nothing left. Now what we can do is we can call our insert method, and we will be collecting ID. So let me have one variable declared, and I will say obj client dot, I will say insert, because I want to insert, and I will be passing my object obj contact. So let me see how my web service work now. Now first thing which we did on the client end is we added the reference. Second, we created object of client type, service client. Now once that is done, we have created one object of our data contract, and we assign the values which we need to pass, and then we are calling this insert method. Now once this insert method is called, it will hit our web service. Now in the web service we are doing nothing, just creating connection object, then defining command, then defining the type like the store procedure, giving the arguments which you need to pass, and then we are just executing the scalar command. Scalar is open. Oh sorry, I just forgot to open the connection. How dumb I am. Okay, let me open my connection. Command dot open. Okay, now let us start from the beginning again. Again we hit our insert. Insert expect parameter contact address. What we passed, we have passed the parameter. Okay, I think we are okay. We are passing null to the address. So let me fix this one again. Sorry. So I will be adding one more value which I missed is address, and I will be giving 1298 sector 11. So let me call it again. Let me remove this breakpoint so that it can make little quick for us. Okay, finally we inserted one record and the ID is 2, and we can try to query our table. Now as we have inserted new record, that is this one, and ID is 2, so this is returned back to my client and I have received the ID 2. Now same way we can do update, delete and other operation. Let me create one more example of update. So what we will do is we will try to update our address. So first thing I need to add is I have to add the web method. So let me declare the web method first into my interface and give an operation contract attribute. Once it is done, I have to implement my method, and body of method is totally ready. Okay, now what I will do is I will just open one connection that I forgot in previous example also. Okay, I will put a breakpoint. Once it is done, first thing I need to rebuild my web service and see whether there is an exception or not. When it is succeeded, I have to update my service reference in my client because I've just added new method out there. Once it is done, let me call update method update, and in update I need to pass this ID also. So we recently generated new one, that is 2, and we are passing that one. So let me run my program again. Oh, I didn't put any breakpoint. Okay, now what I will do is I will try to change my name. Okay, I will make it Yogi. So we expect it to be updated in the database as there is no name Yogi. So we will be hitting our update method in web service. Now we are passing all the parameters required. It is returned some value, like this is the value which I got, like this is the basically execute scalar is now returning number of affected rows. And if I just try to run my out like query again, now my values are updated. So this is how we updated our code. Now let me go and create one select all method so that we can retrieve all the values from the table, all the records from the table. So I will create one more operation contract. I will declare my methods. Second thing, oh sorry, I agree. Now second thing is I need to implement that method. I will go up again. Let me collapse their definition. Now I will go up again. I will implement the interface. Now I have to implement my select all methods. For this also I have my body ready, and I will be just placing it here. And before calling my method, I will open my connection con.open. Okay, basically it is data set, so it don't require connection open, it will open by itself. So, and convert decimal to double. So what do you require? 2 decimal is there. Yep, 2 decimal is there. Okay, now once it is done, I will try to rebuild my web service again. Let us see whether there is an exception or not. Now it is succeeded. I will update my service reference here also. Once it is done, I will go back in my program. Let me comment all of this because I'm just collecting all the data from the database. So I will be just calling the select all method. So I will get got data equal to obj client dot select all. Now select all will be returning me all the data from the database. Hey man, again I hit onto this one run. Okay, stop. And let me add one breakpoint also so that we can see solution. Right click, debug, add new instance, start new instance. Now I'm calling the method. It is taking me to the select all method. Here I am filling up my data, creating list of object, and data is returned to me. Now if I see, I have two objects from the database, which are these objects. So this is how I just selected all data. Now last thing operation is left is delete. So we are expecting deleting some values also. So let me create one more method. So before creating the method, I need to declare into the service contract. So I will give it as operation contract, and I will declare my methods. Once it is declared, I have to go back to my web service, and I have to just right click on my interface, implement, so that I can generate my delete method. Now body of delete method is already ready. I'm just not doing anything, just creating a connection, calling the command, and let me open the command also, con dot connection open. Okay, now once it is done, let me put a breakpoint. Let me rebuild my solution. Once it is done, I'm updating my service reference. Now in this example, what we will do is we will try to delete a record which is having ID 1. Then we will try to get select all. So first we will get all the data. Now here what I will do is I am getting all the data before deleting. Now after this, I will be creating one object having ID 1. I will try to delete the first record from the date table. Now for that, I will be calling row affected equal to obj client dot delete, and I will be passing my obj contact, and once it is done, I will get refresh data and client dot select all. So before deleting also, I will get all the records and see how many records are there, and then I will go and delete the record, and again I will try to check how many records are there. So let me call this so let me getting the data. Let me remove the breakpoint from here. Let me put a breakpoint here also. Okay, now running it. Now I see two records. Now again I will delete. I will call this delete method. Now it is calling the stored procedure, that is delete contact, which is already in the script which I showed you here. So you can go get all the scripts from there here. Now once it is done, I will get data again, and if I see after deleting, my data is one record only, that is this one, and before it was two records, and if I just refresh my table here, one record is left. So this is how you can do CRUD operation using web service, this WCF web service. Now let me repeat the steps again so that it will be easy for you. So whatever methods you want to expose to the client, you have to define into the interface class. Okay, interface file, that is any iService1.cs file, so you can rename it. So for renaming it, any file, you have to rename the class as well as interface. Once you are renaming any you can say class, you have to go open your web service in text editor. You have to replace the class name here, Now once you declare the, like, you can say methods within the interface, if those methods require any, you can say, user defined type, then that user defined type has to be declared, you can say defined as a data contract here, with a data contract attribute, and all the properties which you want to make public need to be given attribute name data member. So, and all the methods are given, web methods are given, like, you can say attribute operation contract. Then you have to implement your interface, and you have to define the body of your method, so whatever they are doing. So this is how much, from this example you can see it is how much it is easy to create this web service and using WCF. So there is no extra hard work required. Just the thing is, you need to know like where you want to you have to declare your methods, and then declare your classes and how they are passed, and then you have to implement that interface. That is all WCF web service. So this is a quick example of WCF web service, that how you can create it. But still, if you have any confusion, you can contact me through my email ID. Let me write it down: yogesh.mail@gmail.com. And you can contact me through my mobile number also if you need any help. And also code and the script of this whole example which we covered, you can download it from texafire.in. And also I will be mentioning the link under the description of this video, and you can contact me on my Skype ID also, that is King Conspiracy. So stay healthy, keep learning, be happy.